MMA rants and raves, disappointments of 2009. You know what, guys? 2009 has been a great year for MMA. We've seen some great fights. We've seen careers being made. We've seen guys that moved up in the ranks, who went from amateur to becoming high-profile fighters. And then, unfortunately, we've seen some other fighters go the wayside. But there are three disappointments that happened this year that I see, which I'm disappointed in. And these are the three things. I'm going to start from number 3, and that's all the injuries that have been happening. And I said it in my other video. If they restructure things better, maybe they can avoid all these injuries. We've seen GSP, Lyoto Machida, Anderson Silva, all title holders, all going out. And then high-profile fighters like Diego Alves and Josh Koscheck, all in a few months' time period, all going out with injuries. Now just think about it. If we had some of these guys here, we'd have more title fights, and we'd be able to watch titles on the line. And that's what you want to see in main event cards, not just high-profile fighters. And those are good main events, you know, don't get me wrong. But those are the fights that we want to see. I discussed it in my other video how I think the injuries, well, some of them can be avoided if they restructure things differently. But in any case, that's number 3. I want to move on to number 2. And I got to say it, Josh Barnett. I was really disappointed to see Josh Barnett go down, because he's the real only threat to Fedor. I mean, let's face it, whether you like him or not, he's a great fighter. He's beaten some serious talent, including Randy Couture, Nogueira. He destroyed Ivel. Not a great fighter, but a tough opponent. And to see him, you know, especially when the fight is there. You got the fight. It's already happening. It's being promoted. They're doing the, you know, the weigh-ins and all that. They're getting to that. And then it goes down, not because of an injury, not because the guy gets sick or whatever. He tests positive for steroids. Come on. How? Why? You know? And, you know, it was good to see him fight Rogers, but Rogers is not nearly as good as Josh Barnett. And it was just disappointing to see. I mean, you know, this guy, I followed him throughout his career. He's a very well-rounded fighter. Very good stand-up. Knockout power. Very good reach. He's a big guy. His ground and pound is excellent. He has great control, great takedown ability. And you combine that in the 6'3", 255-pound frame, this guy is a serious contender. So it was really disappointing. And, you know, he's tested before positive for steroids, so it's not like it was very surprising. It's just that it happened at the wrong time. But look, what are you going to do? That's just the way it is. It was disappointing. And the number one undisputed disappointing situation in 2009 was definitely, by far, Brock Lesnar. And you know why? It wasn't just the fact that he got sick. It was when it happened. I mean, this heavyweight division was the worst. The UFC's heavyweight division was horrible. We just had Tim Silva, and then all of a sudden, you know, Randy Couture says, you know what, this heavyweight division is terrible. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to take over. He was an opportunist. He said, you know something, I have a good chance to get this title, because there's really no one here. He comes in, he takes care of Silva in quick order, gets the title, right? Then what do you have? Frank Mir comes back. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this brash showman WWE star named Brock Lesnar comes into the mix, right? Defeats a few guys, loses to Mir, and then eventually gets to Couture, defeats him, dominates him. He dominates Mir in the second rematch. And then nobody can stop this guy. He's like the best heavyweight. He's on top of the world, right? And there's nobody in the heavyweight division to stop him anyway. There's nobody left, right? So what happens? This other guy comes from nowhere named Shane Carwin. This guy has potential, undefeated, dominated Gabriel Gonzaga. That was his real test. He really didn't fight high-profile fighters before that. But he's undefeated. You know, either way, the guy's undefeated. In any other sport, you can say that. Oh, you know, easy schedule, all that. The guy's undefeated. That's the bottom line. You could lose to low-profile fighters too. People have to look at that. In any case, okay, this might be a test for Lesnar. What happens? Lesnar gets sick. And it's not just that. They don't know what's wrong. 24-hour flu, then it's swine flu, and it's intestinal illness. Nobody knows. Nobody has even heard from Lesnar yet. They say now they're going to know. They're almost there. The bottom line is people are hoping and waiting. The cards are passing by. The months are passing. Title is in limbo. Now, while this is happening, you see the UFC heavyweight division going from the worst to the best. You have Carwin here. Then all of a sudden, this guy Velasquez very quietly starts dominating his opponents. He's one of the best wrestlers in the heavyweight division right now. And then, even better, who I think is even better than he is this one-man wrecking crew named Junior Dos Santos. This guy is a really, really amazing athlete. I mean, he's a destructive hitter, and he's so good at stand-up, we haven't even seen much of his ground game, and he has submitted one of his opponents, by the way. Only 25 years old, too. So, he's a real threat in the heavyweight division. And then, of course, you have Nogueira coming back, defeating Couture. It's another guy. And then, to put the icing on the cake, out of nowhere, a guy who was basically destroyed is coming back better than ever in a new, improved, evolved 265-pound frame in Frank Mir. He comes back, he destroys his opponent, knocked him out, basically. I mean, the submission that came after was just icing on the cake. So now you have him back. You got all these heavyweights here, and the title is in limbo. I mean, how much I would have loved to see the real test now with all these heavyweights. The real test for Lesnar is here. It's finally here, and he's out. So that was very disappointing. So that's the way it is, guys. What are you going to do? Just wanted to talk about the disappointments, and of course I wanted to talk about the good things that happened. We've seen a lot of great fights, a lot of guys that have moved up in the ranks, and well, those are just the things that I've seen that have been disappointing. So would like to know what you have to say about it. Would like to know any disappointments you've had, and the fights that you really enjoyed in 2009, and of course what you're looking forward to see in 2010. Any dream fights you'd like to see. Would love to hear from you. Please leave those comments. Please subscribe, and thank you for tuning in.